It was a quiet evening in the small town. The streets were empty and only a few windows showed light. The air was cool, the sky was clear, and stars shone brightly like diamonds spread across black velvet. The main character, a young man named Armin, walked alone after finishing his work. He liked the silence, it gave him peace. But that night something felt different. The silence was too heavy, too strange, and it pressed on his chest like an invisible hand. The dogs in the neighborhood stopped barking, the crickets in the grass went quiet, and even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Armin felt the hair on his arms rise. He looked around but saw nothing unusual, only shadows of trees and the glowing moon above. Still his heart beat faster, as if warning him that something was about to happen. He took another step and then froze. Far away above the hill, a strange light appeared. It was not the soft glow of a star, or the steady shine of the moon. It was brighter, sharper, and it moved, at first slow like a lantern in the sky, then fast like a fireball cutting through the darkness. Armin blinked, rubbed his eyes, but the light did not fade. Instead, it grew larger, closer, and more powerful. Beams spread across the night sky in strange colors, green, blue, and silver. Like ribbons twisting together, he whispered to himself, "This is not real." But deep inside he knew it was. The ground under his feet shook gently, like something huge was moving above. His ears caught a low hum. Not like any machine he had ever heard, it was deep, almost alive. Like a giant heartbeat echoing through the air. He stepped back, but the light followed. It seemed to notice him, to choose him. Armin wanted to run, but his legs felt heavy. He was trapped between fear and wonder, unable to move, unable to breathe. The beam of light finally struck the ground only a few steps away. Dust and leaves flew in the air. The grass burned with a silver glow, and in the middle of the beam, the air itself twisted and opened like a door. Through that glowing door, shadows moved, tall and thin. Bending and swaying like smoke, Armin could not see their faces. But he felt their eyes on him, watching, measuring, claiming, "Who's there?" He shouted, but his voice sounded weak. Swallowed by the hum in the air, the shadows did not answer. Instead, the beam stretched again, wider, brighter. It wrapped around him like chains made of light. He tried to break free, but his arms refused to obey. His feet lifted off the ground slowly, painfully, like the earth itself was letting him go. Armin cried out, but no one was there to hear. The houses around were dark, the streets empty, and the world seemed to have fallen asleep. Only he was awake, caught in a nightmare that felt too real. The light carried him upward, higher and higher. The ground grew smaller beneath him. He could see the rooftops, the trees, the roads like tiny lines. Then even they vanished, swallowed by the glow. The hum grew louder, filling his skull. His thoughts drowned in it, and soon he could hear whispers, not in his ears but inside his mind. Strange words, soft and sharp at the same time. He could not understand them, but they made his heart race. His vision blurred, the world spun, and when it cleared, he was no longer under the sky. He was inside a chamber, silver walls shining like mirrors, the air cold and thin. Armin lay on a smooth surface that pulsed with faint blue light. He sat up, breathing fast, and looked around. The room stretched into shadows, endless and empty except for the figures. They stood around him, tall, glowing, with masks that covered their faces, their bodies wrapped in strange suits that shone with dim light. Their movements were slow, graceful, and yet terrifying. They did not speak with mouths, but the whispers filled his head again, stronger now, almost like commands. His body trembled and sweat ran down his forehead. He realized in that moment he was no longer free. He was no longer on Earth. He had been claimed. The figures leaned closer, the masks reflecting his pale face, their glowing hands reaching for him. He tried to scream, but his voice broke. Fear crushed his chest. The chamber lights dimmed. The whispers grew into a chorus, and Armin felt something press against his arm, burning, marking like fire under his skin. He gasped and saw glowing lines forming on his flesh, strange symbols that moved like living ink. He was chosen, he was marked, he was theirs. As the chamber darkened further, he knew this was only the beginning. Armin sat frozen on the cold surface, his eyes wide, his breath short, his body shaking from the glowing mark on his arm. The chamber around him pulsed with a soft blue light, like the walls themselves were alive. The figures stepped closer, tall and thin, their suits shining faintly, their masks smooth and strange, no eyes, no mouth, only glowing lines that shifted like flowing water. Every step they took made no sound, yet Armin felt the floor vibrate as if the air itself carried their weight. One of the figures raised its hand, silver and long, almost too long for a human shape. The tips of its fingers glowed, and a faint hum ran through Armin's bones. He clenched his teeth, trying to hold still, trying not to scream. But the sound inside his skull grew louder. Whispers filled his head again, clearer than before. It was not one voice, but many. Deep and high, harsh and soft all at once, like 1,000 echoes speaking the same thought. The words bent and twisted, and yet somehow he understood them. "You are chosen," the voices said. "You are claimed." Armin shook his head. "No, no, take me back," he tried to shout. But his voice was small, weak against the pressure of their presence. The tallest figure leaned closer, its mask only inches away. Armin could see his own reflection in the smooth surface, pale, afraid, trembling. Then the glowing lines on the mask shifted, forming shapes, symbols, and strange patterns. He felt the meaning strike his mind even before he understood the image. "You belong to the season," the voices whispered. "You will serve," Armin's heart pounded. His fists clenched, but his body would not move. It was like invisible chains bound him to the silver surface. He looked at his arm. The glowing mark was spreading, lines crawling up toward his shoulder, burning without heat, alive like fire that did not burn. Another figure stepped forward, carrying something that looked like a staff or tool. Long and metallic, humming with power, it touched the floor and the entire chamber shifted. Light poured from the walls, and suddenly the ceiling above faded away. Armin gasped. Above him was not sky but endless stars, sharp and bright. Spinning slowly, the earth was nowhere in sight. His chest tightened. He realized he was far from home, maybe too far to ever return. The figures spoke again, this time slower, clearer, their voices pushing against his mind. "You will learn," they said. "You will obey." Fear battled with anger in his chest. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why did you take me?" For the first time the voices paused. Silence stretched in the chamber. Then one single voice spoke, softer, almost like a breath. "Because you are human," it said. "Because you are needed." Armin's eyes narrowed. He wanted to demand answers, but the words stuck in his throat. The figure raised its hand again, and the mark on his arm pulsed. Suddenly his head filled with flashes of images. He saw humans before him, men and women standing on the same silver floor, their faces twisted with fear, their arms marked with glowing lines. He saw them fall, vanish into light, erased as if they never existed. He gasped, pulling against the invisible chains. "What do you want from me?" The figures tilted their heads, the glowing masks bending as if curious. Then one of them moved closer and touched its hand to its own chest. Slowly, carefully, it began to pull apart the metallic suit it wore. The sound was sharp, like glass breaking. Plates of glowing armor peeled away, falling into the floor and dissolving into dust. Beneath the armor was not what Armin expected. Not a monster, not a beast, but a fragile form, thin and pale, glowing softly, its skin almost transparent, veins glowing with faint silver light, its face long, eyes wide and black like pools of night. Armin stared, shocked, unable to look away. He had imagined terrifying creatures with teeth and claws, but what he saw was delicate, almost weak. The whispers in his head returned, softer this time. "You will see us, you will know us, you will undress us." Armin's chest tightened. He realized this was not a dream, not a trick. It was a command. They wanted him to remove their armor, to strip away the masks they wore. "Why?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Why me?" The figure did not answer with words. Instead, another stepped forward, removing its mask. Behind it was a face that shimmered, not solid, not flesh. Like smoke and light woven together, it leaned close and whispered without sound. The voice burned into his mind. "You are the judge." Armin trembled. Confusion twisting in his thoughts. Judge of what? Judge of who? The aliens stood in a circle around him, their suits glowing, their eyes hidden but their whispers strong. "You will decide," they said. "You will speak, and we will live or die." The chamber pulsed again. The stars above spun faster. The floor shook. The voices grew louder. And Armin realized the night he thought was strange was only the beginning of something much darker. He was not only taken, he was chosen for something far greater, something dangerous, and now there was no turning back. Armin's heart raced as the circle of figures grew tighter around him. The chamber lights dimmed, and the whispers in his head turned sharper. The glowing mark on his arm pulsed like a heartbeat, reminding him again and again that he was no longer free. One of the aliens stepped forward, taller than the rest, its armor brighter. Its mask glowing with shifting lines, it lifted its hand, and the invisible chains holding Armin down vanished. His body dropped slightly, and he stumbled on the silver floor. "Still weak, still trembling, you will begin." The voices whispered. The ritual cannot wait, Armin blinked. His throat dry, he whispered back. What ritual? But the answer came not in words but in vision. The chamber walls shifted, melting into a different form. Suddenly he stood not in a closed room but in a wide hall, endless and high with tall pillars rising like trees. Each covered in glowing symbols, the air hummed with power. At the center of the hall was a circle of fire, not red or yellow but blue tall flames that burned without heat. Above the flames floated strange objects, pieces of armor, fragments of masks, shards of glowing metal turning slowly as if alive. The tallest alien pointed toward the circle, and the voices pressed into his mind. This is the season, this is the trial. This is where you begin, Armin shook his head. I don't understand. But they ignored his words. The figures around him stepped forward one by one, and stopped at the edge of the circle of blue fire. Then the tallest figure turned to him and raised its hand. The whisper came again, heavy and certain. Undress us, Armin froze. What? He whispered, his voice breaking. The alien moved closer, its mask inches from his face. The glowing lines on its surface danced like waves, and the voice filled his skull. You will remove what hides us, piece by piece, layer by layer, until we are bare. Fear and confusion twisted in Armand's chest. He wanted to scream, to run, but the mark on his arm pulsed again, and his legs moved on their own, carrying him forward step by step toward the flames. The alien extended its arm, metal plates glowing softly. Armin's hands shook, his breath came fast, but something in the mark pulled him, forcing his fingers to touch the cold surface of the armor. The moment he touched it, the suit hummed. His mind filled with flashes, memories that were not his own. Alien skies, burning cities, endless wars, he gasped, pulling his hand back. But the alien caught his wrist with glowing fingers. You cannot stop, the voices said. You will see us, all of us, Armin swallowed hard. Forcing his trembling hands to continue, he pulled at the first plate of armor, and it slid off like ice melting in his grip. The piece fell into the blue fire and dissolved instantly. Beneath the armor was pale flesh, thin and fragile, glowing veins pulsing softly. The alien's body looked weak, almost human, yet not. Armin's chest tightened, he whispered. You're hiding yourselves, the whispers answered. We hide because we must. We show because you are chosen. One by one he removed more pieces, each plate glowing brighter before vanishing in the fire. With every touch more vision struck his mind, alien rituals. Countless humans before him, screams, choices, endings. His knees weakened, his breath grew short. Sweat covered his face, but the aliens did not let him rest. Another stepped forward, extending its arm, demanding the same. Armin shook his head. No, I can't. I won't. But the mark burned like fire, and his hand moved against his will. He removed their armor one after another, their true forms revealed, fragile, glowing, faces long and eyes deep like endless night. But then he noticed something. Each alien looked slightly different, some taller, some thinner, some with marks on their skin that pulsed brighter than the rest. And in their eyes, hidden behind darkness, there was fear. They were afraid of him, afraid of what he might say. You will judge, the voices whispered. This is the ritual. You will decide if we are worthy. Armin staggered back, his mind spinning. Judge you? Me? Why me? The tallest alien stepped forward again, its mask, the last piece of armor, still on. It raised its hand to its face, the glowing lines twisting like fire. Slowly it pulled the mask away. Armin's eyes widened. The face beneath was not solid. It shimmered like smoke, glowing veins shifting like rivers of light. Its eyes black and endless, pulling him in like a void. The voice cut through his skull, clearer than ever. Because you are human. Because only you can see, Armin gasped, stumbling backward, the blue flames flaring higher, the whispers rising into a chorus. The aliens surrounding him with bare faces and fragile bodies. Their eyes fixed on him. You will continue, they said. You will finish the ritual. You will undress us all. And then you will speak. The chamber shook. The floor trembled. The mark on his arm burned brighter, and Armin realized this was no simple task. It was a trial, a trap and a test all at once. He was their prisoner, their servant, their judge, and the ritual had only just begun. Armin stood in the middle of the circle, his chest rising and falling fast, sweat dripping down his forehead, his hands trembling from the endless task. He had removed the armor from several of the beings, and now their fragile bodies surrounded him, glowing softly under the blue fire. They looked nothing like the monsters his fear had painted in his mind. Instead, they looked delicate, almost breakable, their skin thin, their bones long, their veins shining like silver threads, their black eyes watching him with a strange mix of pride and fear. The voices pressed into his skull again, echoing without sound. You see us now? You see what we truly are? Armin's throat was dry, his voice low. You're weak, he whispered, surprised by his own words. You wear armor to hide yourselves. The aliens tilted their heads, their glowing forms shifting slightly, and the whispers returned. We hide because the universe hunts weakness. We hide because strength keeps us alive, but with you, we must show truth. Armin clenched his fists, anger pushing against his fear. Why me? He asked again, his voice louder this time. Why not someone else? Why not all of humanity? The tallest alien, the one who had removed its mask last, stepped forward, its face shimmering like smoke and light, its eyes endless and deep when it spoke. The chamber itself vibrated, because humans see what others cannot. You see weakness and you call it beauty. You see fear and you call it courage. You see death and you fight for life. You are different, and for that, you are judge. Armin shook his head, his chest tight. I'm not a judge, I'm just a man. I didn't ask for this. The flames in the circle flared higher, sparks flying into the air like falling stars. The voices grew stronger. It is not what you ask. It is what you are. The season chooses, and the season never fails. Armin felt the mark on his arm burn again, glowing brighter, the lines spreading up to his neck, each pulse making his heart beat faster. He stumbled, gripping his chest. The aliens moved closer, their fragile forms circling him again, this time slower, almost careful, as if afraid he might break. Armin stared at them, his anger rising. You think weakness makes you worthy of pity? You think showing me your true selves means I'll protect you? His voice shook, but there was steel in it. Maybe I'll call you monsters anyway. The whispers stopped. Silence spread across the hall, the flames grew still. Even the glowing symbols on the pillars dimmed. For the first time since he was taken, Armin felt the weight of silence pressing harder than sound. Then the leader's voice returned, softer this time, almost pleading. We are not monsters, but we have done monstrous things. We fight wars across the stars. We take, we destroy, we consume, because survival demands it, but the season is our balance. We bring one human, we show ourselves, we let judgment fall. Armin's heart pounded. The words shook him. He imagined countless humans before him, standing in the same hall, looking into the same endless eyes, forced to decide the fate of beings they barely understood. How many before me? He asked, his voice heavy. How many did you take? The leader's black eyes glowed faintly. The whispers answered, many, too many to count. Some called us monsters, some called us worthy, some spoke no word at all and were erased. Armin's knees weakened. His stomach twisted, he wanted to collapse, but anger kept him standing. And if I refused to judge? The flames hissed, the whispers sharpened. Then you will vanish like the rest. Your world will never know you. Your name will fade, your life erased. Fear stabbed through him, but he clenched his fists tighter, his voice breaking yet strong. You use us. You use humans as tools for your own guilt. The aliens leaned closer, their fragile bodies trembling faintly, their whispers heavy with something he had not expected. Not pride, not cruelty, but desperation. We need you, they said. We cannot see ourselves. We cannot know truth, only you can, only humans can. Armin's chest tightened. He looked at them again, their bodies weak, their eyes endless, their voices heavy with fear, and he felt something shift inside him. Not pity, but understanding. These creatures were powerful enough to cross the stars, yet inside they were prisoners of their own weakness, terrified of their own truth. But the hidden truth cut deeper. It was not only their survival at risk, it was humanity's too. If he judged them as monsters, they would die. But they might destroy him before the end if he judged them as worthy. They would live, but their hunger might one day reach Earth. He was trapped between two fates, both dangerous, both uncertain. The leader raised its long hand. The mark on Armin's arm flared like fire, and the voice filled his skull once more. You cannot run, you cannot hide. You will finish the ritual, you will judge, and the truth will be spoken through you. Armin fell to his knees, his hands gripping the floor, sweat dripping, his mind spinning. The aliens stood in silence, waiting, glowing, fragile yet terrifying, and he knew the ritual was only pulling him deeper, deeper into a truth he never wanted to see. Armin knelt on the silver floor, his chest heavy, his body weak, his thoughts spinning like a storm. The glowing mark on his arm pulsed faster, climbing across his skin like fire made of light. The alien stood around him, fragile yet endless, their black eyes fixed on him, waiting. For a long moment there was only silence, only the hum of the chamber and the soft crackle of the blue fire. Then Armin felt something shift, not in the room but inside himself, a spark of anger rising again, anger stronger than fear. He lifted his head, his voice low, his eyes burning. "You say I am your judge. You say only humans can see truth, but maybe you have forgotten what humans truly are." The whispers swirled in his mind, sharp and uneasy. "You are weak flesh, you are small. You are chosen only because you see." Armin shook his head, his fists clenched. "No, we are more than that. We fight when we should fall. We rise when we are broken. We are not only survivors, we are challengers. We are fighters." The aliens leaned closer, their fragile bodies trembling slightly, their whispers rising. "Your kind breaks, your kind bleeds. Your kind ends." Armin stood slowly, his legs shaking but his voice steady. "And yet we win again and again against storms, against time, against each other, against the universe itself. You wear armor to hide your weakness, but humans wear scars. We carry pain and still keep moving. That is our strength." The chamber pulsed. The flames roared higher. The whispers grew louder, almost panicked. Armin felt the mark on his arm burn hotter, but now instead of fear he felt defiance. He stepped closer to the leader, his face pale but his eyes fierce. "You brought me here thinking I would only obey, thinking I would play your game. But maybe the season is not only about you. Maybe it's about us too." The leader tilted its shimmering face, the black void of its eyes watching him carefully. The voice pressed against his skull. "What do you mean?" Armin's lips curled into a faint, tired smile. "You need me." "But I don't need you." The whispers cracked, some sharp, some broken. The aliens shifted uneasily. For the first time, Armin saw fear not only in their eyes but in their bodies. Their glowing veins pulsed faster, their forms bending slightly as if weakened. Armin pressed harder, his voice stronger. "You want me to judge you. You want me to give you worth. But maybe it is not you who decides. Maybe it is me. Maybe humans are not weak at all. Maybe you are the weak ones hiding behind stolen rituals." The flames flared tall, nearly reaching the high ceiling. The pillars shook, the chamber itself trembled. The whispers grew chaotic, voices clashing. "No, no, no," they echoed. "You cannot, you must not, you are ours." Armin stood taller, breathing heavy but unbroken. "No, I am not yours, I am human, and that means I am free. Even in chains, even in fire, even in your prison, I am still free." For the first time, silence crushed the chamber. Heavy and sharp, the aliens stared at him, fragile bodies glowing dimmer. Their whispers stopped. Armin's heart pounded, his chest burned. But he felt something new, something powerful. The mark on his arm no longer felt like chains, it felt like energy, like strength, as if it was feeding him instead of draining him. The leader raised its hand slowly, its voice quiet but unsteady. "You twist the ritual, you bend it, you change it." Armin stepped closer, his face inches from the shimmering, maskless form. "Maybe that is the human way. We break rules, we make our own, we don't just see truth. We create it." The fragile alien shivered, its black eyes rippling like water disturbed. The other beings whispered again, this time not in command but in doubt. "He changes it, he bends it. He is not like the others." Armin's hands trembled, but he held his ground. "Maybe the ones before me were silent. Maybe they were afraid, but I am not. I will not vanish. I will not fade. If I am judged, then I will judge on my terms. Not yours." The leader's form wavered like smoke in the wind. The flames dimmed for a moment, then burst high again. The whispers split, some angry, some fearful, some pleading. "You will break the season," they cried. "You will end the balance." Armin's voice rang against the chamber walls, strong despite his exhaustion. "Then maybe it is time your balance was broken." The aliens recoiled, their fragile forms trembling, their glowing veins flickering like dying light. Armin felt the mark on his arm blaze brighter than ever, spreading across his chest, his face, his whole body wrapped in glowing lines. But this time he did not feel trapped, he felt alive. He raised his hand, and the flames answered, rising, bending, swirling around him like shields. The aliens gasped in silent voices, their black eyes wide for the first time. Armin saw it clearly, the truth hidden under their ritual. The aliens were not gods, they were not rulers. They were not unbreakable, they were afraid, they were desperate. They were dependent, and that was the human advantage. The chamber still shook from Armin's defiant words, The blue flames swirled around him like shields. The aliens stood frozen in their circle, their fragile bodies glowing faintly. Their black eyes locked on him. Silence stretched across the hall, heavy and sharp. Then a sudden crack split the silence. One of the aliens broke from the circle, its form shaking, its veins burning red instead of silver. Its whispers sliced through Armand's mind. He must not speak, he must not finish. End him now. Armand staggered back, the flames around him flaring higher. The other aliens gasped, their whispers frantic. No, the season must complete, the ritual must stand. But more figures stepped forward, their fragile bodies trembling with rage, their glowing veins turning darker, their voices cutting like blades. He twists the balance, he breaks the law. He must be erased before he speaks judgment. Armand's chest tightened. Sweat dripped down his face, his heart thundered in his ears. The mark on his arm blazed like fire, but fear clawed at him again. This was not just a trial anymore, it was a hunt. The leader raised its hand, its voice deeper, steadier. Stand back. The ritual is sacred, no one interferes. But the rebels hissed, their black eyes flashing. You are weak? You let him poison the season, you let him change what cannot change in an instant. The chamber erupted. Half of the aliens pressed forward toward Armand, their whispers like screams. The other half stood firm, their glowing bodies forming a barrier around him. The air trembled, the pillars cracked. The flames roared, Armand stumbled backward, his chest burning, his mind spinning. He had no weapon, no plan, only the fire that answered him, the mark that pulsed with his heartbeat. The rebels rushed, their fragile forms faster than shadows, their hands glowing with red energy, their voices sharp. Erase him. Erase him. Armand raised his arm without thinking, and the flames shot outward. Striking the first rebel, the creature shrieked, its body twisting like smoke torn by wind. Then it dissolved into sparks. He gasped, his own power shocking him. I did that, he whispered. The loyal aliens whispered urgently. You must run. You cannot stand against them all. Armand shook his head. There's nowhere to run, but the floor shifted beneath him, opening into long corridors of silver light. The leader's voice cut into his skull. Go, find the chamber of records, learn the truth. We will hold them back, without waiting. The loyal ones pushed him toward the opening, their fragile bodies glowing brighter. Forming a wall of silver light against the rebels, the whispers clashed like thunder, screams echoing, fire roaring. Armand sprinted into the corridor, his legs heavy but his fear driving him forward. The walls pulsed with blue veins, the floor hummed with each step. The whispers still scratched at his mind, both loyal and rebel voices fighting inside his skull. He ran through endless halls, each one lined with strange markings, glowing with faint silver light. Shadows chased him. Distant footsteps echoed. The air grew colder. Finally, he burst into a vast chamber, darker than the others, its walls carved with symbols, its floor covered in glowing shards. At the center stood tall pillars of crystal, filled with floating images, human faces, human voices, humans screaming. Armand's breath caught. He staggered closer. The crystals lit up, showing scenes. Men and women standing where he had stood, their arms marked with the same glowing lines, some shouting, some crying, some silent. One by one they vanished in bursts of light. His stomach twisted, his knees weakened. He whispered, all of them. Erased, the voices of the crystals whispered back, faint and broken. We were chosen, we were taken. We never returned. Armand clenched his fists, rage burning inside him. They lied. They never let anyone go. But then another truth struck him. He saw one crystal glowing brighter than the rest. Inside it was a man, tall, scarred, his eyes fierce. He did not vanish like the others. Instead, he raised his arm, the same mark blazing across his body. The flames rising just like Armand's. Armand stepped closer, his voice shaking. Another human. Survived. The crystal flickered. The man's voice echoed faintly. Not all judges are erased. Some break the season, some fight, some live. Armand's heart pounded, hope and fear colliding. Then I can fight too, he whispered. But before he could think further, the corridor behind him shook. Screams echoed. The rebels were coming, their whispers sharper, louder. He hides, he runs. Erase him now. Armand grabbed one of the glowing shards from the floor. It burned in his hand, but it hummed with power. Energy surged into his veins, the flames around him roared higher. He turned toward the corridor, his eyes blazing, his voice fierce. If you want me, then come and take me. The rebels stormed into the chamber, their fragile bodies burning red, their whispers like knives. The crystals shook. The pillars cracked. The entire hall trembled. Armin raised his marked arm. The shard glowing in his hand, fire erupted, walls of blue flame spreading across the chamber. The rebels screamed, their bodies twisting. But still they came. And in that moment, Armin realized the betrayal was not only theirs. It was the truth of the season itself. A ritual built on lies, on stolen lives, on endless fear. Now he was not only a prisoner, not only a judge, he was a weapon. And the war inside the chamber had only begun. The chamber of records burned with blue fire. The crystals cracked and shattered. Voices of lost humans echoed faintly before fading into silence. Armin stood in the middle, his arm blazing with the mark, the shard glowing hot in his hand. The rebels lay broken in ashes around him. Yet the battle was not over. From the far end of the hall, the leader appeared, its fragile body glowing silver, its eyes black and endless. Behind it came the loyal ones, weakened, trembling, but still standing. Their whispers soft but steady. The leader raised its hand. The air went still, the fire dimmed. The walls trembled as if bowing. Its voice filled Armin's skull. "It is time, human. The ritual ends now. The judgment must be spoken." Armin's chest tightened, his breath sharp, sweat dripping down his face, his heart pounding like thunder. He knew this was the end, not only of the season but of himself. His voice would decide the fate of these beings, and maybe the fate of humanity too. The loyal aliens circled him, their fragile forms shimmering, their whispers pleading, "See us, see truth, speak life, let us continue." But the rebels' voices lingered in his head like shadows. "Erase him, erase them all, end the balance forever." Armin closed his eyes. The mark pulsed like fire. Images stormed his mind. Humans before him vanishing, their screams, their silence, their faces etched in light. He saw the fragile bodies of the aliens, weak yet powerful, afraid yet cruel. He saw Earth, his world, sleeping under the stars, never knowing how close danger had come. He opened his eyes slowly, his voice shaking but strong. "You take humans, you call us judges, but you never let us go. You erase us when we do not bow. You pretend this is balance, but it is chains." The leader's black eyes rippled like water, its voice steady but heavy. "Without the season we cannot survive. Without the ritual we lose ourselves. Judgment is our breath. It is our law." Armin stepped closer, his body trembling but his will sharp. "And what about us? What about the humans you stole? What about the lives you ended? You claim you want truth, but you bury it in fire." The leader lowered its head. Silence stretched. Then its voice whispered faintly, "We are desperate, we are dying, we cannot see ourselves." "Only you can." Armin's grip tightened on the shard. The flames rose behind him like wings. His voice fierce, "Then hear me, hear my truth. Not the truth you want, not the truth you wrote into your ritual, but the truth of a human who refuses to bow." The loyal aliens trembled, their fragile bodies glowing dimmer. The leader lifted its face, its eyes wide, waiting. The entire chamber silent. Even the fire held still. Armin's chest burned. The mark spread across his body, glowing brighter, wrapping him in lines of silver fire. His voice rang across the hall. "You are not gods, you are not balance. You are afraid, you are weak, you are liars. You hide behind armor and rituals, but underneath you are fragile, fragile and desperate." The whispers cracked, some pleading, some screaming. The loyal ones fell to their knees. The rebels shrieked in rage. The leader's body shook. Armin raised his arm higher, the shard blazing. "You ask me if you are monsters or worthy. I say you are both. You are monsters when you steal. You are worthy only when you admit your weakness, but weakness is not evil. It is only truth. And truth is human too." The chamber shook. Pillars crumbled. Fire split across the ceiling. The aliens writhed, their whispers colliding. "He breaks us, he saves us, he ends us, he remakes us." The leader staggered, its voice breaking for the first time. "What is your final word, human?" Armin's eyes burned, his voice fierce. "My judgment is this: you will live, but never again will you claim humans. Never again will you steal from my kind if you come to Earth. It will not be as rulers, it will be as equals, or it will be as ashes." The flames exploded outward. The mark on his arm seared like fire and then dimmed. The shard in his hand dissolved into sparks. The chamber shook one last time, then grew still. The leader fell to its knees, its fragile body trembling, its black eyes wide. The loyal ones whispered softly, "It is spoken. The season is broken. A new law begins." Armin staggered, his chest heavy, his strength fading. The fire around him dimmed, the mark on his skin glowing faintly before sinking into silence. he whispered, barely able to stand. "It's over." The leader raised its head, its voice soft, almost broken. "No, human. It has only begun." The chamber walls melted. The stars above returned, endless and bright. The floor beneath Armin faded. Gravity pulled at him, his body dropping, falling, spinning. He gasped. The air rushed around him, the world blurred. Then with a sudden jolt he landed on solid ground. Grass beneath his hands, cold wind against his face, he looked up. His town stretched before him, the streets empty, the houses silent, the night sky calm, the stars steady as if nothing had ever happened. But the glowing mark on his arm still shimmered faintly. Proof it was all real. Proof he had spoken judgment. Proof the season had changed. Armand stood slowly, his breath unsteady, his mind heavy with truth. He looked at the stars, his voice low. "If they come back, I'll be ready." And somewhere in the endless dark above, whispers lingered, whispers waiting. The story was not an end, it was a beginning.